Hi everyone! Welcome back to the channel. You'll find out that there are two different Utopia shows. The first is the original British series, and the other is the remake available on Amazon Prime Video. We're talking about the Amazon Prime Video remake. The premise of Amazon's Utopia follows a group of young adults and a boy getting hold of Utopia, the name of a cult underground comic book, which doesn't just corner them as the target of a hideous, shadowy organization, but also bestows them the dangerous and risky responsibility of saving the world. Sounds interesting, isn't it? However, before we continue, please ensure you're subscribed and hit the notification icon so you don't miss any of our content. And if you enjoy this type of content, don't forget to like. This really helps the channel. Now it's time to get into it. Let's dive right in. Ethan Lander, together with his girlfriend Olivia, move into a beautiful old house that Olivia inherited from her grandpapa. However, inside, the house is disgusting, filled with decades-old clutter. While cleaning the house up, Ethan stumbles upon loose pages from a graphic comic book with the title Utopia. The images inside the comics are disturbing and filled with gore. One page reads, describing it as the conclusion to Dystopia, the title of another cult comic book. Olivia commands that he throw it away, but her boyfriend insists that the comic book could be valuable, citing a Batman comic that got sold for $1 million. He convinces Olivia that such a huge money could dramatically change their lives. Ethan turns to the internet to search for the Dystopia comic book and discovers it has a huge fan base. He announces online that the Utopia book he found would be sold at fringecon, exciting his virtual friends. A group of friends started talking about it: Samantha J, Wilson, Becky Todd, Ian Ackerman, and the Kansas-raised Grant Bishop. They plan their attendance in the auction event. Wilson tells about the Dystopia mythology to his girlfriend Monica, wherein a girl named Jessica Hyde and her father have been held by the villain Mr. Rabbit to create devastating viruses. They escape with the help of Artemis. More eerie, Wilson says Dystopia has predicted real-world outbreaks like MERS and Ebola, believing that the Utopia comic book will reveal what happens next. Monica says he's just being paranoid, but Wilson is keeping that faith strong. FringeCon begins, and the group separately converges. Becky suffers a seizure at home, but still made it to the event. Meanwhile, Samantha rides with her father to the venue, and Grant is ever so excited. The convention buzzes with cosplay and fan anticipation. Meanwhile, the event organizer couple host private viewings in a hotel room, thinking of profit-driven tactics, such as allowing each of those who bid to see just one page. Wilson arrives at the event first, pretending he's not interested, while recognizing that the pages are original manuscript. He bids $500, but warning cryptically, "No way, I contact you." Other bidders followed suit, including Becky, who kept asking questions about viruses, and Ian, who secretly captures photos of a page while the others are distracted. Ian is glad to finally meet Becky in person. They bond, albeit awkwardly, but drawn together by their interest in the mystery of Utopia. Samantha has viewed the pages and is visibly shaken. She urges Olivia not to sell it yet, arguing that her manuscript is more valuable than the money they would earn. But she, nevertheless, offered $6,000. On the convention floor, Samantha publicly argues with other fans, insisting the real danger isn't the fictional story, but the real diseases hidden inside it. Wilson watches, impressed. Back in the room, a man named Philip Carson interrupts the bidding, putting down $20,000 cash. Olivia accepts the offer. Shortly, Grant, arriving late, learns that Carson has already taken Utopia to the penthouse. Grant wants to see it, so he convinces the hotel staff, lying he's Carson's son, so he gains access. Meanwhile, two strange men named Arby and Rod arrive at the bidding event, attracted by the crowd. They approach Ethan and Olivia, demanding the manuscript. They tell them it's been sold, so Rod lets out a gun and syringes, calmly drugging everyone in the room before stealing their cash and bidder list. Meanwhile, in the penthouse, Grant manages to find Utopia, but is interrupted and stopped when Carson returns with a date. Arby and Rod arrive shortly after, also violently demanding the manuscript. With Utopia in his hand, Grant escapes down the stairs. The weaponed Arby and Rod then murder Carson and his companion, then systematically kill everyone on the bidder list except 4 names: Samantha, Becky, Ian, and Wilson, and Grant. They frame a mentally ill man for the massacre. Unaware of the danger, Samantha then convinces the others to stay at Wilson's house. As they leave together, the killers gear up to track them down. Back in the hotel room that the weapon duo had drugged, a woman sporting a long, braided hair appears in the event, looking for Utopia, but Olivia was already begging for help. The braided woman ignores her, instead heads to the walls to take a look and be mesmerized by the fan posters plastered on them. They read, "Stay alive, Jessica Hyde." Olivia asks her why the comic book matters to her. The woman tells her, "Because I'm Jessica Hyde, Hearing that, Olivia collapses. The chase for the Utopia manuscript continues. Jessica breaks into Philip Carson's penthouse, looking for the manuscript, but it's gone, nowhere to be found. She then stumbles upon a card Grant left behind, realizing the comic book is with the boy. With a mirror, Jessica then roughs up her face, then manipulates a hotel guard's mind into thinking she's been cheated on. That way, she can review the security footage to see Grant leaving the room. The footage also shows Arby and Rod entering later. Soon after, the hotel staff just discovers blood dripping into a room below. A massacre happened. Meanwhile, Wilson gets back home from the auction event with Ian, Samantha, and Becky. He introduces them to his dad and takes them to his underground bunker, where he shows them display pages of dystopia. They talk about and argue whether it predicts the end of the world. Becky notices a symbol in the art as the Diels virus, which appeared in the comic before it existed in real life. Wilson then tells them he secretly photographed a page from Utopia, and on the photo is the message, "This is our undoing." That made them even hungrier for uncovering the truth. Elsewhere, meanwhile, Dr. Kevin Christie, a biotechnology CEO, graces an interview about his synthetic food product, Simpro. When asked about the flu outbreaks in the schools where the product was introduced, the doctor denies responsibility, leaving the interview abruptly. The way he evaded the question only fueled the suspicion, as reports of sick children go viral. With the Utopia book, Grant travels alone, comparing the images in the comics to real-life landmarks. Then, back in Wilson's house, they message Olivia, believing Grant is just nearby. Jessica intervenes, confirming Grant isn't with her. This caused Wilson to panic, then accused everyone of being reckless and paranoid about tracking. Meanwhile, Rod and Arby arrive at Wilson's home disguised as gas company workers. But once they go in, they kill Wilson's family using poison gas, all for the comic book. In the bunker, they capture Wilson, interrogating him about Utopia, Grant, and Jessica. Cornered, Wilson insists he's just a fan. The duo isn't satisfied of his answer, so they torture him with salt, with bleach, then scooped out his eye. Afterwards, Arby kills a woman who just arved at the house. Wilson is still alive in the bunker, manages to free himself, and fires a gun blindly. Jessica suddenly shows herself, and with her axe, she kills Rod. She then confronted Wilson, demanding the comic book and the information where Grant is, before she dragged him away as Arby comes back to find Rod dead and Wilson gone. Jessica joins and reunites with Ian and Becky, but she forces them inside a car, revealing her real identity. She also knocks Wilson unconscious, telling them they will never get back home safe. She also burns their gadgets and identity documents. She says anybody who complains will be left behind. Meanwhile, as the news of the deadly flu killing children and the massacre at the fringecon auction event spreads, Dr. Michael Stearns, a scientist, recalls a virus he studied in the past is related to this virus. Dr. Christie is seen watching the same news stories. At their hideout, Jessica returns with new outfits and confirms the family of Wilson is dead. She tells everyone to change their appearance. Wilson wakes and receives a lie saying his family is just safe. Jessica reveals Grant, a child, has Utopia and that she badly needs it to save her father, a scientist held hostage and forced to work. Back to Grant, he finds temporary shelter and retreat with a woman and Alice, her daughter, after stealing food. The hosts offer him kindness, and Alice examines the comic book. Then, back again at the house, the group correlates the flu's symptoms and effects, rashes, to the imagery in the comics. Ian loses faith and insists Jessica is a fraud. When he threatens he'll report to the police, Samantha calms him down. Jessica pulls a gun and, without hesitating, shoots Samantha in the head. She says the group can't have two leaders. Those who remained alive, terrified, realize things have changed and they're trapped with Jessica now. While Jessica was using the bathroom, Becky, Ian, and Wilson were watching her at gunpoint. After Jessica finishes, she says they will go to a funeral. They check Samantha's corpse while dryly noting that it's a different funeral, that of Olivia. At the funeral, Jessica handcuffs Ian and Wilson inside the car, then warns to kill Becky if they leave. She and Becky head inside to gather more details about Grant and Utopia. Meanwhile, Becky chats with one of the mourners, from where she learns that Olivia's grandpa had acquired Utopia while working in River Park Asylum. He got the book from a patient who created it during art therapy, the mourner claimed. However, the asylum burned down, killing all patients. Outside, two gunmen with red hair confronted Ian and Wilson, demanding the comic book, and not just the book, but Jessica too. Becky lies to get information on the address of Olivia's grandfather. As she and Jessica leave the church, Jessica manages to kill the gunman. They drive away. The group visits the home left to Olivia to look for more clues. As they search, Ian is looking at running away, but Wilson says Christie's organization, The Harvest, is hunting them, making Jessica their only protection. Becky reveals her Deals syndrome and wants Utopia for it might cure here. She says she's wiling to accept Samantha's death if it means good for her. Meanwhile, the shaken Ian stays. Wilson finds an envelope labeled River Park dark asylum art therapy. Inside are drawings by the same artist and a photo of Jessica's father holding them. A news article reveals the asylum fire used an unknown accelerant. Becky urges Wilson to show compassion. Then, Jessica just collapses into grief, and later hiding inside a cabinet. Grant finds himself with Alice, bonding over the comic book's mythology. Alice's mother, Kim, shows him kindness, talking about Nelson Mandela and his compassion for children. They leave, but Grant is preparing to escape with Alice's laptop, but he sees a lunch prepared for him. At Christie Labs, police raid the facility over Simpro. An FBI agent named Tony Tambler meets with Kevin Christie. Meanwhile, also elsewhere, scientist Michael receives the blood samples from the infected children, confirming the virus is similar to what he studied before. He believes there's already a vaccine and cure. The group on the quest then checks Grant's messages, stumbling upon a clue on Mr. Rabbit hideout. Jessica reappears, surprised they stayed. She tells them her dad is still alive and that only Artemis could be trusted. She takes Ian with her, threatening Becky and Wilson if they leave. Steers meets with Christie and talk about an emergency vaccine production. Stearns disagrees, saying more work has to be done, but Christine dismisses his side. Furious, Stearns decides to go directly to the outbreak zone in St. Louis. Back at the house, Wilson and Becky decode the clue from Grant about the Harold Washington Library in Chicago. They immediately steal a car to chase him. They say farewell to Samantha, honoring her courage. Meanwhile, Jessica and Ian reach a lot, an abandoned lot. While Ian was confronting Jessica over the killing of Samantha, a woman attacks him from a side. It's revealed to be Artemis. It's a reunification for Artemis and Jessica now. Artemis reveals she admitted Jessica's dad in an asylum. When Dystopia surfaced, she let Mr. Rabbit kill him. Jessica did not like what she heard, so she kills Artemis, removing her fingernails to reveal a tattooed numerical code. Meanwhile, Becky poses as Grant's mother to rescue him from a police encounter. Elsewhere, while Stearns gets to the St. Louis quarantine zone, he's denied access. Then, Christie meets with Arby, showing him pictures of Grant, Utopia, and Jessica. Christie pressures Arby to retrieve them, and saying nice words to him. Arby agrees, emotionless, as Christie assures him he's proud, sending him back into the hunt. Jessica and Ian dig a grave for Artemis. They drag the blanket-wrapped body of Artemis into the hole, covering it. Ian lets Jessica say something, but instead she keeps digging, muttering, "Sunrise, shovel fast." Back at the house, they report they just buried Artemis, with Jessica calmly adding it was a nice grave. Ian tells them about the numbers tattooed beneath Artemis's fingernails. In a sudden turn of events, Ian, who was just with Jessica digging a grave for Artemis, confronts Jessica, arguing how her father's virus killed the kids across the nation, and that Artemis was actually a hero for stopping him. Jessica says Artemis must die. As their argument worsens, they see Grant standing behind them. Becky tells them they finally found him. Grant, with his scissors, is prepared to stab Jessica if she approaches. Becky talks him down. Grant shows a starburst mark on his hand, similar to what Jessica has. The time she shows him hers, she lunges for the prized comic book. Grant then barricades himself in the bathroom, escapes through a window, scatters the comic pages, and attacks her with a lawn flamingo before they face off. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Christie tells his dad, Kevin, that Stearns had managed to enter the St. Louis hot zone. This angered Kevin, calling Stearns the most dangerous man alive. Stearns eats pancakes at a diner and talks to Colleen, who tells him to get back home. He instead talks to families trapped outside the quarantine, identifying himself as a virologist, drawing a crowd. Kevin rides a bike to work with Thomas, then enters a red room, meeting with the Harvest. He lists their problems: Utopia, Jessica Hyde, those who've seen the comic book, and Stearns. When Thomas proposed staging a spree killing with a Grant clone to draw attention, Kara objects. She argues that's a moral line that mustn't be crossed. Kevin questioned her commitment to their purpose, and that's when she agreed. Again, back at the house, Jessica assures she won't hurt Grant, but he'll be hunted forever. She says she's been running her entire life. Together, they spread out Utopia's pages. Back at the house, Jessica tells Grant she won't hurt him, but warns that once the world realizes. A carousel image triggers Jessica's memory. Ian recalls the fingernail tattoo numbers: 77315-37071. For Becky, it's the global population. For Wilson, it's a Chicago phone number. Jessica dials the number and calls it. A woman answers, introducing as Agent Catherine Milner, then hangs up saying they called a wrong number. Immediately, a message followed suit, warning that the Harvest is moving and giving directions north. Jessica orders that the house be destroyed. She attempts to burn Samantha's body, but is stopped along the way. Instead, she turns on the gas and blows the house up, leaving Sam's body behind. Then, there's Kara confronting Kevin about being sidelined. He reassures her, saying Simpro saved him, and that Thomas isn't fully ready yet. Stearns studies outbreak maps, but is unable to piece together those details with the spread. He joins protesters and meets Dale Warwick, whose daughter is dying inside the hot zone. Stearns says he has a vaccine sample, Soon after, he's completely cleared to enter and brings Warwick with him. On the road, Jessica demands to be let out. She tells the group to avoid trusting Milner and to never reveal Utopia. She leaves with Grant, telling them to say she's dead if tortured. Becky and Ian meet Milner in an abandoned Toys R Us. Milner explains the Harvest started as a post-9/11 bioweapons initiative and became rogue under Mr. Rabbit. She recounts his massacre in China and his worldwide killing spree. She refuses asylum but admits Mr. Rabbit wants Jessica because she knows something dangerous. She offers friendship and leaves. Keen with the mission, Arby chooses Adam, a schoolboy who strongly resembles Grant. Later, Kevin tells Arby to make it humane. Arby stages a massacre using Adam as the Grant lookalike and a fingerprint decoy, killing an entire family and screaming thereafter. Inside the car, Jessica reflects, including her home and a ma who brought cookies. Wilson realizes Mr. Rabbit might be that man. Stearns finally gets into the hot zone with Warwick as his daughter. Grant sees Samantha's notes, realizing the comic book is actually incomplete. The chase continues, with Arby's killing spree. A kid who has died from the flu virus gets sealed within a body bag. Meanwhile, correspondents report bad news from the St. Louis hot zone. Outside, protesters gather amidst a report that there have been no survivors. Inside a medical tent, the daughter of scientist and virologist Dale Warwick suffers from a high-temperature fever. Warwick tells Stearns the experience of having a child. Stearns warns of the worsening complications and that the vaccine might not work. In the end, he agrees to administer it. Warwick asks him to hurry. Stearns leaves, while another girl who resembles Warwick's daughter enters, removing her protective gear. She tells Warwick a decision has to be made, but he suggests that they first get their last meal. So, the two healthy girls, Charlotte and Lily, enjoy their food, laughing and eating as if there's no tomorrow. Christy joins them, hugs them, and asks if they've decided. Lily says they wanted him to choose. Kevin chooses Charlotte. He inserts a barcoded disc into her mouth and asks what she has done to earn her place in a crowded world. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Jessica and her company arrive at the new safe house. She tells Grant it's time to retrieve the rest of the Utopia comic book. Grant revealed he left the rest of the half with Alice, his friend. Becky finds herself suffering from a seizure. She collapses into a bathtub as Ian holds her, telling her to keep breathing. Back in the hot zone, Stearns returns. Charlotte exhibits some T-shaped rashes with her temperature reading so high. Stearns draws blood and injects the vaccine. He says they'd know within half a day. Warwick asks when Stearns studied medicine, to which he answers, Stanford. He leaves Warwick alone with his daughter. Warwick bursts into tears, but Charlotte tells him to be happy. In the bathtub, Ian was reading the horoscope, joking the world is safe in their hands. Becky says her syndrome has no cure, but he insists they will figure the cure out. Outside, Grant refuses to give directions to Alice's house and should lead them. Jessica hands Becky alcohol, giving a warning. Just then, a news report gets in, saying Grand Bishop is allegedly the youngest mass shooter in United States history. Things are getting dangerous, Jessica says. In the hot zone, Lily announces it is time. Charlotte is put inside a body bag. Lily cuts off her ponytail for Warwick, saying she's going to the incinerator. Back at the house, Jessica explains that everyone is now hunting Bishop. Meanwhile, Ian discovers his family was poisoned. Then, Wilson learns Jessica hid the truth all along, that his family died in a staged gas leak. He explodes in rage. Becky learns she is untouched because she had no family. Jessica silences them and tells Grant he cannot come with them. She threatens torture and asks for a razor. Thomas and Christy talk about Charlotte's death, agreeing it was a purposeful death. They also talk about sacrifice and useful children. Stearns sees to find Charlotte alive as her temperature gets reduced. Tests show her viral load is now 0. It means the vaccine worked. Warwick is ecstatic to announce the cure. Charlotte addresses the crowd, praising Stearns and his vaccine. Authorities arrive at the place, but Kevin and Stearns incite the crowd to demand the release of the vaccine. Kevin says Christie Labs will make it. Then, all chanting, "Free the vaccine!" Meanwhile, Arby finds himself murdering officials at Alice's house, killing Kim, confronting Jessica, and leaving Utopia behind. While Jessica and Grant rush away, a truck labeled Order 2472 departs as well. Inside the truck, rabbits. Arby plays with raisins while reading pages of the Utopia comic book. Jessica, Grant, and Alice return to the house, while Alice is stunned by the murder of her adoptive mother. Jessica tells Becky to comfort her. Becky demands answers, though. Jessica takes the pages of Utopia to another room. Just reading those pages shocked her. Meanwhile, in the St. Louis hot zone, tents are dismantled. Stearns looks for Charlotte and finds her tent empty. He grants an interview, saying he hoped the flu won't ever leave Peru. Back at the house, the group watches the interview. Jessica returns, saying Utopia is giving more puzzles than clarifications. She pours Grant and Becky some drinks. Becky is saying they should finally understand it together. Jessica snaps how she hates puzzles, since she's a puzzle herself. Wilson insists that they solve it. From the comic, Jessica concludes she must find home and kill Mr. Rabbit. Ian and Wilson argue, then it realizes Jessica, Grant, and Alice have fallen asleep. Stearns Stearns leaves the hot zone to applause, with Warwick and Lily in a wheelchair posing as Charlotte. Lily says thanks to supporters and lobbies for the FDA to free the vaccine before leaving with Dale. He scolds her for speaking, pointing out that she should be the face, not the voice of it. Back at the house, Wilson complains he got nothing left. Ian and Becky chime in. She shows him her Deal's virus tattoo, then the kiss, hesitate, and then kiss again. Reports swarm to Lily's house with Stearns. Warwick didn't want him inside, but then Wilson bursts into Ian and Becky with a clue. He stumbles upon an image of a llama with bat wings and Peruvian shades, linking it to Peru and the bat flu. He hypothesizes that Stearns and Mr. Rabbit are just one person, but Ian doubts it. Meanwhile, for Becky, Stearns is controlled, not the mastermind. Inside, Stearns drinks tea with Lily and Warwick. He offers to oversee Lily's recovery. Warwick refuses further testing. Stearns notices signs the house is barely lived in. Warwick dismisses his own work as pointless. Then, Stearns is asked to go to Chicago. News stories declare the flu as a national pandemic. Kevin and Christy discuss replacing Frostfield. Arby appears through a cracked window, letting Kevin know he has found Jessica and Utopia. Christy attacks Arby. Kevin sends him away. He confronts Arby for reading Utopia, and Arby says it disturbed him. Kevin explains that Arby was there for a purpose, not love, and called him Raisin Boy. He forgives him once, but warns he must obey or cannot belong. Arby leaves. At Lily's supposed home, Warwick stages signs of habitation, then walks into traffic but gets killed. Stearns wakes confused to learn Warwick died by suicide. Kevin orders the Harvest to fabricate Warwick's life story, portraying him as a Stanford biologist brought to despair. Stearns watches Lily's interview and notices inconsistencies. Fake blogs appear, reinforcing the narrative. Stearns calls one and hears the same scripted reasoning. The group reaches another safe house. Alice wants to go home. Jessica refuses. Alice tries to leave and Jessica restrains her with handcuffs. Stearns grows convinced something sinister is happening, suspecting the virus targets children. Pauline dismisses it as paranoia. Alice requests that Grant cut off her braid, so Jessica may never control her again. She looks at and studies Utopia, while Stearns heads off to bed, but secretly researches the comics too. In the safe house, Wilson reveals an image that Stearns was once in the asylum with Jessica's dad. Jessica makes up her mind that Stearns is Mr. Rabbit. Becky collapses from a seizure. Jessica slits her throat and inserts a funnel, but she appears dead. Grant and Ian grieve the loss, yet Becky suddenly revives, implying that Jessica just staged it. Jessica tells them to leave. Stearns discovers Lily's house belongs to a traveling petting zoo whose route matches flu outbreaks. As the FDA approves the vaccine, he realizes the truth and issues a warning to the world. Colleen stops him, knocking him down, unconscious. Stearns hears Colleen's voice telling him to focus and turn on his laptop and go to a folder named Fun. He does, confused. Inside the folder are fearsome images. Colleen explains that 2 years of illegal materials are clearly time-stamped and traced to him. She makes a call, announcing the deployment of Operation Fun. She tells him she did not marry him for love, but to look after him and care for him. That was her purpose. She then orders him to immediately approve the vaccine and read a prepared statement to the press, smiling, or he'll end up in cells. Christy then watches the media coverage about Warwick and his brother Thomas. Arby shows up, and warmly, Kevin asks if he's back with them. On the news, Lily, as Charlotte, talks to reports, telling them she's an orphan and that her relationship with Warwick is in shambles. Kevin panics, yelling that she's destroying the narrative. He commands Arby to stop her. He tosses him raisins as Arby leaves. Meanwhile, in Stearns' house, he tells Colleen he believed her love was real, but she says making him love her was her role. That was when he realized she works for someone else. Jessica Hyde arrives with the group, telling them to wait outside and never mind the screams. She enters as Stearns rehearses the statement. Alice asks if Stearns caused her mother's death. Then, Jessica points a gun at Stearns. Alice rushes in, the others follow. Elsewhere, Lily is enjoying her luxuries. Arby confronts her. She insists she said nothing about home, the secluded place owned by Christy. In Kevin's office, Thomas reports the accomplishment of Operation Fun, but admits failure for needing it. The moment the vaccine ships out, Stearns is also out. Kevin agrees. At Lily's house, she tells Arby she longed to sacrifice as a martyr. She admits loving the world, and she asks if he has ever had Pepsi. Back at Stearns, Ian looks for him and finds no marking. Jessica puts him into interrogation about the asylum, and she learns that Colleen is an operative. Jessica cuts Colleen, draws a gun, and a fight ensues. It was Alice who shot Colleen. Jessica nods in approval. Meanwhile, Arby goes drinking Pepsi with Lily. She says she will guide the future. He rejects his name, instead chooses John, and vows to bring her back. At Stearns, Jessica tortures him so he could explain the flu is spread through petting zoos using infected rabbits. So they destroy the zoo, but takes one rabbit. Lily is brought home and meets Christy. She admits endangering the secluded place. He then asks what should be done with her. Meanwhile, Stearns, examining the results, comes into a conclusion that the vaccine won't work, especially with Christy owning to everything. Jessica then shoots the rabbit, declaring that Christy is Mr. Rabbit. They visit Catherine Milner, who reveals she worked with Jessica's father and gives her the childhood blanket. She refuses to help without proof. Back at the safe house, the doorbell rings. Jessica opens it to find Christy bound outside, with Arby standing standing nearby. Christie's duct-taped body gets dragged into Stern's house as Christie watches crowds lined up for the flu vaccine. Thomas gets alerted, panics, and runs across the factory floor to the harvest. He tells them to find Kevin, that he wants Jessica alive and have Arby killed on sight. Meanwhile, back at the house, Jessica removes the tape on Kevin's mouth. He greets her calmly, appeasing her, recalling giving her cookies as a child, noting this isn't how he wanted to spend the night before the vaccine ships out. Jessica asks Stearns if it's okay that Christie is bleeding on the floor. Stearns says, go ahead. Wilson lays out salt, bleach, and a spoon. Kevin notices Colleen's corpse, calling her one of their best sleeper agents, and praises her devotion to purpose. He explains Charlotte and Lily came from Eastern Europe and says important work fails because people lack stubbornness. He tells Jessica she also holds a purpose. She exposes his tattoo, identifying him as Mr. Rabbit. Ian says he will have murdered millions. Kevin reveals that Becky's Deal syndrome began in childhood, caused by an experimental spray meant to test a genetic illness. Stearns accuses him of choosing misery and death. Kevin questions him how much evil is needed to do good. Stearns answers none. Alice then assembles the pages of the Utopia comic book into a spiral, revealing a pattern. Kevin explains that Jessica's dad created an almond virus within the vaccine. It will stop human reproduction for 3 generations. A van from Harvest arrives. As they breach the property, Arby, now identifying himself as John, kills them. Kevin says humanity is only destroying the planet and that overpopulation should be stopped. Alice protests his right to make the decision. Kevin identifies himself as a very strict parent. He talks to Jessica, telling her she belongs to him, showing her inoculation scar, and saying her father tested on her and sterilized her. He says she will never have children. The group then plans to infiltrate Christie Bio and destroy the mother egg, the primary source of the virus. The group then leaves, but Jessica is left behind. She tells them they can do it without her. John shows her a page of Utopia, telling her he is her brother. She asks to go to home, and he agrees. The rest ram Christie Bio, breach the warehouse, and started destroying the vaccine vials. Using carts and fire extinguishers, they smash crates as alarms sound hysterically. Stearns leaves to find the mother egg. Guards enter the building, but Stearns manages to escape disguised as staff, the egg with him. Wilson decides to stay behind with Kevin. He demands a confession, but Kevin refuses, saying Wilson understands sacrifice and resolve. So, Wilson insists Kevin killed his family and kids. Elsewhere, the police catch Grant while Becky escapes. Wilson picks Becky up with Christie in the car. Jessica and John reach the home, children playing as John expounds on their usefulness. They reach Jessica's yellow house from childhood. Inside, her bedroom remains intact, the toys untouched. She collapses onto the bed like a child in a hotel room. A record plays the tune Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Milner appears, revealing she is the home. She says Jessica's blood is saving her and that Utopia was only just bait. She reveals scars on Jessica's back, calling her the future to be harvested. She wraps Jessica in her blanket and turns off the lights. Outside, John says, "Stay alive, Jessica Hyde." In the basement, a man draws pages of something that resembled the Utopia comic book. Milner tells him, "I have your daughter." And that's where Utopia ends. So, what did you think of this show? Did you have fun? Is the last scene too open-ended, or was it a cliffhanger? Be sure to drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed and hit the notification icon to stay updated on our next videos. And thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.